I know we've got the obvious, what is an Ironman? But what, in your opinion, is an Ironman, Shannon?
Well, his is different than mine, so I don't want to equate what I'm doing to what he's doing. But my race is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a marathon. Thanks.
Mine's pretty much the same, but just
a little more extreme.
Yeah, it's more of an adventure race than I race just for a finish or I race to become that Ironman. But
yeah,
slightly different. The run goes over 2 Monroes and the bike's a wee bit longer, but apart from that, it's
similar, fairly standard, same idea. So, why did you guys decide to do an Ironman? Starting with you, Shannon.
I'll blame my parents for that one.
Okay.
I had talked about it for a while. I always knew it was a bucket list race for me. I figured 5-10 years I'll start training for it. But then my parents crossed the finish line for their first Ironman in October, and that really lit the fire. And I decided that day they crossed the finish line that I was going to sign up for one, and here we are.
Was that kind of a competitive side of you that opened up?
Absolutely competitive side. Well, I thought we were going to do it together, the three of us, but their schedules just kind of worked out. They did it last year, so I knew it was time for me to step up and stop putting it off.
Yeah. So why did you decide to choose Bolton?
I was looking at the calendar of races, and I thought that with this current schedule that I had in my classes and the flexibility that I had, that this would actually be a really good year to do it. It wouldn't have been something that I would have thought about if they hadn't done theirs. But as soon as they did, I was like, oh, okay. Looking at the calendar, thinking if I could do something in the UK, maybe right around the time that my dissertation is finishing up, I'd have a lot of opportunity to move some training around and get the miles in. And so it really just was luck and coincidence that Bolton happened to be the summer I was in the UK and the summer that my classes would be over, so I could get the training in.
Fantastic. And Robin, yourself, why an Ironman?
Well, I think the reason that I'm doing Keltman and I've done it in the past is it's my local race, and we get competitors from all over the world that come and do it. Usually about 50 countries are represented at Keltman, and there's very few locals that do it, and for me that was the whole idea of doing it when I did it last year. I'd never done a triathlon before, and I wasn't really tempted to do a triathlon, but the idea of running my home race for the locals was kind of the thing that brought me to it.
You say that you'd never done a triathlon before, like you hadn't even open water swam before you signed up for Keltman.
When I signed up for Keltman, I hadn't swum in about 12 years, and that had just been kind of basic swimming in primary school. So, and I was absolutely terrified of open water swimming. So that was a huge challenge, and conquered my first Ironman. But it was a challenge that I accepted, and I did it. And I didn't post the best swim time, but I completed it.
And how did you manage to overcome that challenge? Because even mentally, jumping in the water with jellyfish, we're not talking about just the water, the jellyfish as well.
Yeah.
How did you manage to come over that?
Yeah, well, it was one of the big fears, because I knew that I had a good bike and I knew I had a good run, but obviously you don't get onto the bike if you don't even complete the swim, so that's always the worry. And first felt I was just trying to build it up through swimming in the pool, which was difficult because I was coming out of every swim being exhausted, and I was being sick all the time after swims, and just struggling to even walk a mile after swims just in the pool. And then eventually I got into the open water, and I was kind of hyperventilating every time I got into the water, and I was unable to swim on my front, which made it really difficult. But just through practice, and my local dentist, he helped me out with some swimming and in the open water, and I kind of got over that and started to take in less seawater, which is quite pleasant. So
more air, less seawater.
Yeah, but
you realised you weren't a fish by that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And is swimming something that you now feel much more confident in, or is it still a weak area for you?
It's still a really weak area. Swimming is one of the things that it's not just about brute force, it's so much about technique, and so it's hard to even just over a year improve that much. But I'm more confident now, but I still need a lot of work to be a great swimmer or anywhere close to that.
Sweet. So I'm just curious, how did you both kind of get to this point? I mean, Robin, how did you get to this point of training for an Ironman, and what is your sort of athletic history?
Well, I've always done cycling. I've only just started racing this year, but I've always just cycled just to get about, and kind of I live in a part of the world where it's just beautiful for cycling, so it's kind of why not? It's a great way to see the outdoors and for freedom, and so that's always been something that I've done, and I've always loved walking up mountains. So the fact of running a marathon over two mountains is just absolutely phenomenal, and something that I just thought in awe I'd love to do. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of my background.
Were you cycling as a kid, or
Yeah, I mean, I always
how young were you?
My dad cycles, and so he's always cycled, and so it's been always one of those things that I've just done because I've done it with my dad and my brother. And, you know, there's no cycle clubs where we are in the Highlands or anything like that, but it's always been a thing that we've always raced up all the hills around us, like the Gelt and the Bar, and there's a few sporties around us, so we've always done that as well. So it's something that my dad's always encouraged. So yeah, from a very young age, I've always cycled.
Yeah. So, in almost complete opposite from Robin's situation, where he was struggling to breathe and he's hyperventilating in the water and stuff, Shannon, you're a mile swimmer.
I am a mile swimmer.
Yeah.
He has a much better story than me, though. That was great. I was enjoying all of that.
So, it's not a popular event, the mile swim, as you can imagine. So, like, how did you come to doing a mile swim?
We're not very fast, so that ruled out all the sprint distances.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, if I don't have the speed, maybe I can just kind of outgrit everybody else. So from a young age, I veered towards the distance events. There were less people in them, so they were less competitive. And it was fun to just kind of really challenge my body and see what I could do.
And did you, because you were saying that, you know, there's not many people in the field, was it hard for you whenever you were training with people who were doing the sprint and you were having to just do your own thing?
Yeah, I was definitely always in the distance group. I kind of loved that, though. It was this mark of pride that I got to go a little bit further, and that was sort of kicked off my endurance athletic career. So yeah, I've loved the long stuff from a very young age.
I'm just kind of thinking, with that persistence, with that grit, with that drive for being a mile swimmer, is that what drives you now? Is that something which you've managed to carry over into the Ironman training, and how has it?
I think so. I think that I would get sets handed to me in swim practice and look at them and just think, there's no way. And then you do them, and it sort of gives you confidence that you can take on challenges that you maybe didn't think you could before. And I definitely think having the distance background, I'm more inclined to choose the long stuff. So Ironman is sort of a natural progression.
And for yourself, Robin, cycling background, what kind of, you know, drives you to want to be able to, what is the driving force for you when you're in training, when the going gets tough?
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of, I don't know, as well as I've always found the endurance side good. I've been rubbish at sprinting my whole life, and, you know, but I've always found that, you know, I could just kind of keep going, and, you know, even when going gets tough, even if I'm going really slowly, somehow I'm able to just kind of stumble along and keep going. And I love the fact about Ironman events that it is very much, you know, it's such a challenge, and it's an endeavour which just seems absolutely impossible when you sign up and you look at the distances. You know, cycling 100 miles is really tough as it is, swimming the distance is tough as it is, and running a marathon is tough as it is. You know, they're extreme endeavours, but put it all together, it just is something amazing. And to think that you could actually do it and just cross the line and finish is great. And what really puts, I think, Ironman events, aside from everything else, is, you know, if you do a 100-metre sprint or whatever, you know you're going to finish, but obviously you want a top place. For Ironman events, there's so much about just crossing the line, and that's such a great achievement.
That's brilliant. Because, like you say, the being able to just survive is one of the challenges in itself. And is that something which really attracts the two of you to the sport? Is that? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, coming from the Highlands, kind of, my dad always brought me up that, you know, you're a Highlander, and, you know, when going gets tough, you don't just give up. You know, if it's cold in the house, you don't put the fire on, you put a jumper on, because you're a Highlander.
Yeah.
And you know that Celtic blood in you, and it's always been one of the things that's kind of, I've always thought, you know, when things get tough in life, or you're out cycling and it's cold and wet, you don't just like go home, you keep going, because that's when you get the real good miles in.
And I mean, you're obviously like a very community centred guy. You're doing this for your community, you're doing it in your community. How has the community rallied around you if there's not many of them that are racing it? Have you had a great amount of support from them?
Yeah, I've had a huge amount of support. So when I signed up for Keltman, I had no idea what kind of support I would get, and I was currently living at home when I trained to do Keltman for the first time, and there was people asking me, you know, what's going on and anything, what you're training for, because they see me running about the street all the time and anything, and on my bike all the time. And I told them about Keltman, and everyone kind of got behind me, and they persuaded me to fundraise for a local charity, and the support was great. After lots of locals actually came to support me, so they came and watched me come out the swim at 6 a.m. in the morning, which, you know, on a Saturday morning, I'm sure they would prefer to stay in their bed, but all of them came out, which was just incredible. And afterwards, I was invited to hand out the prizes at the local school end of term ceremony for the sports prizes, which was great. And I've been asked to do presentations at my local village about becoming a Keltman. So yeah, it's just been amazing, the support, and I get loads of encouraging messages and all the rest.
Yeah. And again, let's reverse the situation, because we've got a guy who's going to be doing it in home, he's going to be doing it with his community, and then Shannon, you're going to be doing it in a different country.
I am. Yes.
How are you going to manage to do that?
Well, my dad's coming up, so he's flying from the States to watch and support, which is awesome. I couldn't ask for much more than that. I am excited to represent the U.S. I'm trying to figure out like what I can wear that says, you know, America on it in some way. But I think it's going to be really cool that my first Ironman is going to be in the UK, and it's a nice way to sort of mark my time at Sterling. It'll probably be the last big event that I do here before I head back. So I'm really excited. I'm hopeful, you know, that I make it across that finish line. But assuming that all goes well, it'll be a nice way to cap off my year.
And you know, Robin's going to be dealing with the extreme side of things. What for you is going to be some of the biggest challenges which are going to be facing you in Bolton if you've been looking at the course profile?
Yeah, I have been looking at obsessing over the course profile. My strong suit is the swim, so that's good in a way, because I know that the first part's not going to be too bad, so I don't have the anxiety of like starting in the water and trying to get through that first segment. But that means that my race doesn't really start until I get out of the water, and then it's mentally getting through the bike and then physically getting through the run. So we'll see. I've been doing the training, so I'm hoping that my body cooperates with me on race day.
Yeah, and just to put it in perspective, what does a typical week look like for yourself?
So I'm trying to remember. Last week I did about 6 grand in the water meters, 9 hours on the bike, and about 25 miles of the running.
And that's obviously as you're starting to you're coming to the
down.
end
I've got
of your
about
cycle.
a week and a half more really hard training, high mileage. I'm trying to do 100 this weekend, assuming the weather holds up on the bike, and then I've got an 18-mile run on Thursday. So this will be probably my last big, heavy week, and then it starts to taper off, but it doesn't get ever too low. I think the following week I've got like a 60-mile bike, then a 50-mile bike, then maybe like a 25-mile bike. So it comes down, but there's still some mileage in there.
Yeah, and for you, Robin, what's the kind of typical week looking like? Because you've got fitness all around nursing as well.
Yeah, well, so obviously doing a nursing degree is quite pretty full on. You've got to taper it around, fit around that, and my current placement is in Pullman, which is 17 miles away. So obviously biking there and back every day, you know, it's around 35 miles a day, which is kind of core, which is really good. But depending on training, it kind of differs. I don't really follow a training program or anything. I just try and get out about and enjoy as much as I can, and try and simulate the race course as much as I can to my surroundings. But for example, there'll be some training weeks where I'll really go for it, and so the idea is you're constantly building. So you start off, you know, with maybe a 50-mile bike and a swim or whatever, and constantly building until you get to Saturday, and then you have a really, really hard day, and your body's absolutely shattered, and then you get up the next day and you maybe do a 100-mile bike. And so that you're getting your point to the body's exhaustion, and then you do your 30-minute fitness test at the very end.
Yep.
Because the idea is that when your body's at the very lowest, that's when you want to push yourself, because there's always going to be that part of the race where you're absolutely at your lowest, and often that's the time you need to attack, or you need to just get through that stage.
Yeah.
And I think for an Ironman event, it's, you know, especially on race day, you've got to be so mentally strong, and it's often more about mental strength than physical strength, because you may have the physical strength, but if you're not mentally prepared, then you're not going to cross the line.
Yeah. And what are you going to be thinking about when you're on that bike for 6 or 7 hours, or in the middle of the marathon?
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to be thinking about?
Well, you know, like one of the benefits of Keltman is the fact it is in a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
And you can look around you and you can just be like, wow, this is just absolutely beautiful. I often think of all the family and friends and everyone who's supporting me, because that's a huge, you know, a huge incentive. I try to smile and just enjoy it, you know, because you've got to enjoy it. It's a long time. It's, you know, a lot of people have gels and stuff for Ironman, but I like to just have like homemade Rocky Road and stuff like that, so that, you know, you're on the bike and you're not thinking about the run, you're thinking, oh, in 5 miles time we're going to have a lovely bit of Rocky Road, because that's just what keeps you going. You need the short-term like thoughts just to keep you through the bike, because it is a long time. But,
yeah. And yourself, Shannon.
He's so mentally tough, man.
Yeah.
I'm listening to that going, wow.
You know, you say that your race is going to start once you hit the bike, so when you get out of the water, what are you going to be thinking?
Well, I've got my Race for Lori jersey, so I'll be putting that on to start my 112-mile bike, and always riding in her honor. So I think that will carry me through the bike. And then in the run, again, thinking about family and friends supporting me, that's the big thing. I think that will, every mile, you know, just try to think of somebody that's made a difference in my life and get me to the finish line.
And is your dad going to be race support crew? What's
Yeah,
his sort of role for the week?
I'm so happy he's coming. So when my parents were telling me about their experience, like you can't do it unless you're going to have somebody there that like is going to be able to take care of your bike when you finish, because you're just not going to be able to mentally, take the bike out of T2, get it to the hotel. So he's going to be kind of running the logistics to be good. He's running a car, so we'll have transportation.
Brilliant. So, I've got two very different people here, but at the same time, you're both mad enough to have decided to do this. So what is it that kind of, the grimace, do you think there's a specific kind of person who loves these kind of challenges?
I don't know. I mean, you've got to love a challenge, and I think you've got to love putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's, I think, the hardest part. I think one of the hardest parts of an Ironman is that signing up, because saying that, and then I think it's important to tell your friends or tell people about it, so that the pressure comes on you, because then people know, and then you've got to train, and But I think the main thing is that coming out of your comfort zone, but also the endeavour to keep training. The hardest part of an Ironman is not the event, in my opinion. It's week in, week out training, because it gets tiring, it gets tough, and you have to say no to a lot of commitments, but that's what you've signed up for.
And for you, it's a lot of like 4 a.m, 5 a.m. starts.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. And you have to put a lot of other things inside, but for me, cycling and running and all that and being in the outdoors is my absolute passion, and I love it. And sometimes it is tiring, but most of the time I just absolutely love it.
Yeah. And Shannon, what is the anatomy of an Ironman?
You said the training is harder than the race, and I really hope that's true. No, I think it's self-discipline, and in sort of opposite to, because that's going to be our theme apparently. I had 6 a.m. practice pretty much my entire undergraduate career, so 6 days a week, again up at 5 in the morning, and now I don't have that. I have a lot more flexibility in my schedule, but I think that sort of programs me until every day you get up and you do something hard to start the day, and that just kind of sets you up right. And I liked that. I got into a great rhythm of looking forward to training every day. So yeah, it's the excitement of it and the challenge of hitting those new mile benchmarks. It's been a good journey.
Fantastic. And just to kind of, bring things to get you guys to do some exchanging here. Starting with you, Robin, come from a position of experience. What would you say to somebody like Shannon, who's about to take on her first Ironman?
Yeah, well, this time last year, it was a week before doing my first Ironman, and I was very nervous. I think the important thing is just to enjoy it, you know what I mean? Just make the most of it. It's extremely hard, but I always thought when I did Keltman last year, every mile on that bike, I'm getting close to that goal that I've worked hard for the last 8 months, and I'm just a mile closer to that. And I think it's really important to stay positive. I think an Ironman is often a battle between, if you're negative, then your performance is going to go down, but it's a battle to be positive for 12, 13, 14 hours, however long you're going to be going for. So
I'm the upper end of that, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then, Shannon, what would you say to someone who's sitting there? Say it's me. Convince me. You've tried enough this semester, but convince me to do an Ironman.
It's a cool journey. I haven't completed it, so I'll definitely let you know how I feel at the end. But my mom talked me into it. My dad talked me into it, so I was convinced by them. And I think you're part of this community of people who are all trying to push themselves. And I'm inspired by Robin. Every day I'm like, when in the winter you were like, I'm going out for a 70-mile bike. I'm like, I'm still scared to go 40. But you just kept inspiring me. So it's a great group of people who are always trying to bring other people into it. But it's good.
Mm-hmm. I think for someone who hasn't done Ironman before, I think the thing is, how many people can put in a job application that they've done Ironman before? How many people can say that? It really stands you out from everyone else, because it's such a challenge that people can never think about doing it. And just the fact that if you've done it or even attempted it just shows that kind of endeavour and that commitment to something.
You can get the tattoo too.
Robin?
Do you have it? Are you going to do it?
I would like to, but tattoos are expensive, and I'm like, maybe later.
Yeah. I don't know, that would only take you an hour.
Yeah.
It would be like, what?
30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, 100 quid, maybe.
Yeah, 100 quid.
How much did the Ironman cost you?
Oh, way more than 100 quid.
I know, yeah, exactly. So, just one last thing. What is the one thing that you're looking forward to most out of your day?
Oh man, I hope I cross the finish line.
Yeah.
Crossing the finish line would be pretty amazing. That's what I'll be thinking about every day now for the next 5 weeks.
Robin?
Yeah, no, I think, I really enjoyed the bike, I really enjoyed the run, and the race day is really exciting and anything. There's no better feeling than when you cross the finish line and you realise you've done it, and you hug your mum or whatever, and you get that.
Ice cream.
Yeah,
I was going to say, what's the first thing you're going to eat when you get across the line?
I'm going to get a beer then. So.
Ice cream
Ben and
straight on it.
Jerry's.
Yeah. I've already stocked up actually my freezer with loads of Ben and Jerry's, loads of
Yeah.
crisps, loads of like granola, all the things I've
Yeah.
been restricting myself already when I get home.
Least been
The
no
arsenal
restriction
is
in my
packed. Oh well, that's great. Thank you very much, the two of you. It's been awesome.
Well, this is fun.
And
I
then,
hope I said something reasonably
yeah,
articulate.
yeah,
That was
I
good.
reckon so. And good luck as well.